don't know if anybody's noticed, but we find ourselves in a little bit of a contentious time. And there are people who are saying that, priests should stand up and say this, or priests should stand up and say that. It's one of those times where it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. So I don't know if I'm going to do or don't today. I really don't know how this is going to come across. So we have this scene that sounds like it could have happened last week. Somebody coming to somebody taking a podium and trying to trap them with a question. Go ahead and fill in the blank with your own candidate at the podium. So how are we called to respond? Let's just go ahead and take a little bit of a history lesson from our first reading. Okay? So we hear the prophet Isaiah, second Isaiah, as, if you want to know the fancy term, if you want to, thrill your friends and relatives, Deutero Isaiah, as he's known at this point. He's saying to Cyprus, the king of Persia, who is the one that came to liberate the Israelite people who were in the Babylonian exile, okay, who he says a couple of times in this reading, even though he know not the one true God, he was the anointed one. We have another word for that. You know what it is? He's given him the title Messiah. That's the title second Isaiah is giving to this person who didn't even know the one true God, the Messiah. So what does that say to us? God can work in mysterious ways. That's what it says to me. Throughout our history, God can work in mysterious ways. And so as we are finding ourselves in the midst of this contentious time, how are we as Christians called to respond? Let's go back to the beginning of Jesus' public ministry for another clue. Remember when he goes into that synagogue in his hometown of Nazareth? And he grabs the scriptures and he rotates it to the part where he says, I have come to proclaim liberty to captives. Now think about that. He is talking to a population of people who have been under foreign rule, who have been held captive by these Roman occupiers. And the first thing that he says is, I have come to proclaim liberty to captives. Can only imagine. They're like, yeah, let's get behind this guy. But does he ever go on to say, it's time to take up arms? Go ahead and pound your plowshares into swords, and go ahead and take your pruning hooks, turn them into spears. It's time. Let's go. In case you're wondering, nope, he doesn't do that. he doesn't do that. Rather, he goes on to say over and over and over again that the liberty that he comes to bring us is a relationship with God. That's where we gain true freedom. That's what Paul is reminding the people of Thessalonica. He's reminding them that we're invited to this relationship that will carry us through any time, any place, any division, pandemic, injustice. It's the relationship that we are invited to go deeper and deeper into that serves us. So instead of responding now the way that our society out there is encouraging us to do, I'm going to say it again. As Christians, as Catholics, we are called to insert ourselves into the dialogue that we will find ourselves in and strive to bring about peace, to bring Jesus into the conversation. Not to reinforce our battleground over here or reinforce our battleground over here. No. That is taking plowshares and pounding it into swords, and pruning hooks, into spears. So those of you that want to send me the videos that do that use our Catholic faith to substantiate or create a battleground on either side, save your time, save your clicks. Don't bother sending them to me. And when you receive them, okay, just remind yourself, okay, that we will continue to believe what we want to believe unless we open our hearts and minds to that relationship. And I'll just remind you again of what Archbishop Lucas has continually said to us in every election that he's been present here with us throughout. He is encouraging us to remind ourselves that an election is one day, well, or a period of time, right? But what are we doing to work for justice, to influence whatever political party you find yourself in the day after the election, the month after the election, the year after the election? Why would you think he says that? Because I think he would agree with me that both parties need work. And it's not happening in our conversations out there. We are simply, at least this is what I find when I find I'll be honest with you, in conversations with my own family this week, I have slipped into breaking my own preaching. And I've apologized to them, okay? I'm apologizing to them right now, and I need to continue to try to practice what I've been preaching. That we cannot give into this one dialogue that we are being forced into. We as Christians, are called to, first of all, unite ourselves more deeply to the one who came to proclaim liberty to captives. Let us not be held captive by one side or the other, but let us insert ourselves into the middle and say, how can we continue to bring about love, continue to bring about goodness, continue to bring about God's presence in this time when we desperately need it?